So our own Mike Mitchell has a update on what's going on after this big announcement with the XFL's new brand logo and new website. But he has an article about the pitfalls of abandoning what made the 2020 XFL league great. And he's got some interesting tidbits in here. So the XFL is coming back, slowly emerging out of the prolonged darkness and back into the light again. The XFL officially rebranded today, gone as the old look. But a fair question is what made the league so great, and its buildup from 2018 to 2020 has also faded away. The new black and white themed logo may be the first glimpse of that reality. So change is a coming, my friends. What's clear as day is that the new XFL will be entirely different from the league many fell in love with 2 years ago, something Mike Mitchell has talked about over the past year or so. There will be more signs of that as the crescendo of the league announcements are made in April and May. So the idea is that this is just one of many announcements to come over the course of April and May. So you're going to have to stay tuned for all as we get to coaches, cities, teams, all that stuff is coming out in April and May, these next 2 months. So remember, the new XFL, Danny Garcia said this: "I acknowledge the past, but chose to define the new." This was from co-owner and chairwoman Danny Garcia talking about the XFL's 2023 future. Now, back in November at this site, Mike Mitchell wrote about how dramatically different the league would be from the last iteration. Now it's slowly becoming a reality. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing depends on the new leadership directions. We are starting to see a glimpse of this new vision now. Change is always inevitable with new ownership, but one has to wonder if abandoning the spirit of the league in 2020 is actually the right course of action after all. When you look at the situation clearly, Redbird Capital Partners, Jerry Cardinal, Danny Garcia, Dwayne Johnson could have started their own pro league, but instead they bought the XFL for pennies on the dollar out of bankruptcy caused by the you-know-what. What were they buying for $15 million? The property was the name and its trademarks. It's obviously that they saw value in the XFL was accomplishing in 2020 and wanted to keep that alive. They bought a specific brand and the built-in equity that came with it. Was the league bought to build upon what it was or what the new leaders think it should have been? That's the question. It's evident with the rebranding that the new group wants to put their spin on the XFL. So here are some tidbits. Changes are on the horizon, go beyond the league's new look. Sources telling Mike Mitchell that there could be as many as 3 new cities among the XFL's 8 teams in 2023. Notice he says 8, not 10. So it doesn't look like we'll have a team in Mexico or a team in Canada. New York Guardians supporters might not be happy with what they find when the teams are officially announced. There is also growing rumors that LA and Tampa could also be among the 2020 league's extinct list teams, potentially replaced by West Coast and a Florida named team. So stay tuned for that. It's worth noting that none of this is official or confirmed, but the idea of a new cities replacing old ones is already in the ether with the reports that we reported here about San Antonio joining the XFL. Now, Dwayne Johnson many months ago went on CNBC to tell everyone that the league would have new cities, so the departure from some of the old league brands is not really news. Because the clock is ticking on the XFL to get back on the field, the question becomes whether the league will be able to effectively get into markets and set up shop the way they did in 2019 and 2020. One would think with the you-know-what seemingly under control, with less restrictions, that the goal of selling tickets in 8 markets would be vital to the XFL's success. However, there are many who believe that the newly rebranded XFL could opt for a hub setting like the USFL, perhaps in a tax-friendly state like Texas, to control costs in the lead up to 2023. But after a 3-year wait, if such settings were to come to fruition, financially sound or not, it would rightly be seen as a failure by many fans, including me. You've waited 2 years. Let's just get it turned back on and let's go. And quite frankly, a step back what the league was in 2020 because you had all these stadiums getting full, and now you're going to something that you could have done last year as a hub city. In 2020, when they had enthusiastic crowds and marketing embraced the XFL product. Remember a beer snake in Dallas during a Defenders game just won't be the same. I was there in DC for a Defenders game. Also, new coaches as it pertains to the coaching side of things. The cat's out of the bag of now former Virginia State head coach Reggie Barlow, who's one of the league's head coaches. He's on there, presumably in San Antonio. But Barlow may not be the only former recent player turned coach who will be leading the charge for XFL teams. Recent scuttlebutt suggests that up to as many as 6 head coaches in the XFL will be former players who have recently dabbled in the coaching ranks. The XFL's new leadership group is definitely taking an outside-the-box approach when it comes to deciding who will run their football teams, one that will mirror what NBA franchises have done for decades, plus the success of Deion Sanders at Jackson State has opened a new doorway for former players and head coaches. There's also rumblings that there will be a couple of prominent coaching veterans among the league's 8 head coaches, but don't expect more than one of these league head coaches from the 2020 to return. That's right. It's looking like there's only going to be maybe one XFL coach from the 2020 season to return. It's not because successful coaches from the last iteration like June Jones and Winston Moss didn't want back in. It's just the XFL's new leadership wants to go in a different direction. Jonathan Hayes, who I think totally should be back, did a fantastic job in St. Louis, also appears to be out of the loop. It's a mistake for the league not to include these coaches, but the new leadership group wants to start fresh with their own ideas. Now, out with some of the old and with the new, some key figures from the successful startup operation of the XFL in 2020 are back. The marketing sign Janet Dutch, Jordan Slechter are returning, Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Business Officer, respectively. Russ Giglio, Director of Player Administration and Officiating Ops, and Brad Campbell's return as Director of Football Technology. Bobby Monica is also back in the fold in equipment operations. On the football ops side, Doug Whaley has returned as Senior VP of Player Personnel. So there's no denying the value of bringing some of the soldiers back to war from the last iteration, but some key figures are missing from the league's last go-around, like former Director of Football Operations, Innovation, and Strategy, Sam Schwartzstein. I've heard him talk on the Markcast several times about the rules and how meticulous they were when it comes to the rules. Now, and XFL 3.0 may adopt a few of Schwartzstein's innovations from 2020 the same way the USFL has for its upcoming season, but the XFL has decided to move on from someone who contributed greatly to the league's research, development, and innovations that were so widely embraced and applauded. For whatever reason, ideas and innovations are good enough to utilize to keep, but the person behind them wasn't. Former XFL president Jeffrey Pollack has gone on from the league, replaced by Russ Brandon. Pollack did an amazing job building up the league on the business end. He hired exceptional team presidents and adroitly helped plant the seeds for the league's success in their 8 markets. Oliver Luck, the former commissioner who helped to build great credibility to the league after its 1.0 era, was seen as a joke. He was on the football side, oversaw a tremendous group of rock star individuals who work with the league's front offices like Stephanie Rudnick. Luck also embroiled in the lawsuit with former XFL owner Vince McMahon, is gone from the new league, along with many of the people who heavily lifted with him behind the scenes from 2018 to 2020. So they're all gone. Also, Eric Galco is gone, who is the director of football ops and personnel. He's now for the East-West Shrine Bowl. He's not back with the league after being one of the most vital members of the XFL back in 2019 and 2020. Galco could be an ally in the future for the XFL when it comes to scouting because of his previous working relationship with Doug Whaley, but his presence as a full-time member of the league will be missed. Also missing from the XFL in 2022 and beyond is the social media star Bailey Carlin. One of the strongest aspects of the last iteration of the XFL was its social media team. Bailey Carlin, the XFL's social media editor, and the entire team, many of whom moved on to run social media for other pro sports teams, were among the best attributes of the XFL. The league's critically acclaimed social media team was ahead of its time and changed the way sports teams and leagues have interacted ever since. Matching with the XFL social media team in 2019 and 2020 won't be easy. They helped endear so many people to the product. The new XFL will come with some returning figures that has a lot to live up to when it comes to what people who worked for the league delivered 2 years ago. Now, of course, the jury's still out on the XFL's new leadership group. Despite the impressive background of the XFL's new leadership group, it's fair to scrutinize, doubt, and take and wait, see approach with them. They have to prove themselves first, no doubt about that. There's no denying the success of the business acumen of Jerry Cardinale and Redbird Capital Partners. Their track record of making big-time deals with major players in the sports world speaks for itself. Cardinale and Redbird are heavyweights in the sport and business industry, but the bottom line is that this is their first foray into running an entire sports league. It's a vastly different universe than buying into ready-made entities like Liverpool FC or partnering with established brands like the Yankees and Cowboys. Among sports ventures, starting a pro football league is arguably the most challenging endeavor anyone can sink their teeth into. Betting and bankrolling on that sure thing is different from attempting to build something from scratch with a negative track record. Redbird might find that out the hard way. Aligning everything for the XFL thus far hasn't come easy for them, and there's a reason why they didn't dive into the project of relaunching the XFL immediately. Redbird has taken its sweet time since buying the XFL in the summer of 2020 to strategize a business plan that could work, underlying the word could, because Jerry Cardinal and his partners know what a hulking task this is. No pun intended. He's got the Hulk in his office. Redbird is not accustomed to gambling on the unknown. They are diving into the deep end of the pool with no swimming experience. Once the cash registers open, there are no life rafts to save them from drowning this point forward. There's also no denying the success of Danny Garcia and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson have had in the business and entertainment industry. Garcia and Johnson are one of the most successful duos in both fields. As it pertains to promotion and drive, Dwayne Johnson is a force of nature, tirelessly pushing whatever he is aligned with and doing it endearingly. But at the end of the day, neither Johnson nor Garcia has ever run a sports league, and it's never been their wheelhouse. They have no experience in this field, and perhaps they will do whatever successful leaders have done in the past and surround themselves with people who are adept at navigating the ins and outs of running a football league. Who knows? Celebrities or rich individuals will often buy sports teams and leagues for vanity reasons. It's a different category of virtue signaling on a grand scale, where you purchase something that has public notoriety for the value of building up your own self-image and worth. Hopefully this is not the case with Garcia and Johnson. The tandem is easy to root for, and it would make for a heck of a story if they were to succeed in this area that no one has. There's true that. Dwayne Johnson's story as an athlete has gone from rags to riches as an out-of-work football player who make for a Hollywood full circle type ending if the XFL prevails where others haven't. The discarded football player helping create an avenue to keep dreams alive for other players would be poetic justice. Of course, the story of Danny Garcia as a female owner of the sports league is an inspiring one, although technically she is not the first woman to accomplish that feat. The legendary Billie Jean King was a co-founder of the World Team Tennis and the first female commissioner in sports history. King also became WTT's main league owner in '84 before retiring in 2001. Garcia becoming a successful co-owner of a sports league would be an amazing story and set a great example for all aspiring women in the industry. There's no doubt about that. There is, however, doubt about Garcia Johnson Redbird Capital when it comes to owning and operating a sports league. They've never done it before. For better or for worse, they are making the XFL their own. The league they saved from death is returning from the grave for a second time. The name remains, but will the spirit of what it was be the same? It's not looking that way. The XFL's new look might be black and white, but the shades of gray leave an impression of uncertainty and doubt. Let us know what you think in the comments.